This is Mr. Adam, and I have a story for you. It's called Charlie Over the Water. Once there was a man named Charlie. He was the best fisherman in the whole world. He used to brag to his friends all the time that there was no kind of fish he hadn't caught, and no one could say anything to him because it was true. One day he was out in his boat and he saw a fish. That wouldn't have been strange, except the fish was looking at him. Yes, just swimming there looking at him, bobbing up and down on the waves, up and down, up and down. And as it bobbed, it sang, Charlie over the water, Charlie over the sea, Charlie caught a big fish, but Charlie couldn't catch me. Charlie didn't know what to think about this fish. At first he couldn't even believe it was singing, but then it sang the song again. Charlie over the water, Charlie over the sea, Charlie caught a big fish, but Charlie couldn't catch me. Charlie didn't know what to think about that song, but he began to get the idea that it was about him, and he didn't really like it. Then the fish started laughing. Ha 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 ha! Imagine that, a laughing fish. Charlie turned his boat around and tried to get closer to this fish, but as he did, it pulled away, just out of his reach, singing, Charlie over the water, Charlie over the sea, Charlie caught a big fish, but Charlie couldn't catch me. Now he knew the fish was making fun of him. Well, Charlie was the best fisherman in the world, and he wasn't about to admit that there was a fish he couldn't catch. So he started after that fish, and his boat went up and down on the waves, up and down, up and down. Now Charlie had a problem, because when his boat was up, he couldn't reach the fish, and when his boat was down, he couldn't see the fish. Still he kept sailing after the fish, and all the while the song kept running through his head. Maybe you know it by now. Charlie over the water, Charlie over the sea, Charlie caught a big fish, but Charlie couldn't catch me. Well, finally Charlie noticed that they were heading out to deep water, and he lost his nerve. So he turned around and he watched the fish swim out of sight. And the last thing he heard as the fish disappeared over the horizon was that song, Charlie over the water. Charlie hung his head and let the bobbing of the waves remind him of the song of the fish. And as he sailed back over the waves towards shore, he realized that the song was true. Charlie is still the best fisherman in the world, but you won't catch him bragging anymore, because every time he starts to feel important, he notices how the waves take his boat up and down on the waves, up and down, up and down. And the song of the fish comes back to him. And he realizes that no matter how good he is, somewhere out there, a fish is better.